Welcome to the insert podcast title here. Podcast. I am your co-host, Hexel Colorado, with my fellow co-host,
Connor.
and this is the inaugural episode of our podcast about Dallas mobility and transportation, which means that we will spend most of our time, maybe 95% of our time, talking about Dallas area rapid transit, affectionately known as DART. Today, we're going to talk about the DART 2045 Transit System Plan.
Hexel, I want to ask you, what made you want to start this podcast?
Oh, I'm supposed to be asking the question, and we've turned the tables.
I'm allowed to ask questions.
Okay, we've both been thinking about this for a long time, but I felt now was the time to start when there was a recent city council hearing, and the news had really portrayed this hearing in a very negative light. Not that there wasn't anything legitimate to be concerned about. There are real issues that DART is struggling through. And all of the news around this hearing kind of focused on that. But then when the hearing actually happened, you had watched it, and there was a ton of exciting stuff that came out of that council hearing. And we were going through it. You were highlighting a lot of points about it that were really fun to look at. But none of that was portrayed in the news.
No, the news media made it seem like the Dallas City Council is harshly asking these tough questions on DART.
There isn't a constructive or productive outlet for DART news, transportation news in Dallas. We get our fair share of criticism, and I think we will do a lot of that on this podcast, but there isn't any conversation about what DART is doing and what DART can implement as a real solution to the issues that they're confronting. So I wanted this podcast to be this opportunity for everyone to know what's actually going on, what solutions are actually being on the table, and have a productive and constructive conversation about DART rather than just what can we, bash DART for. Because I do feel the best thing to be is 50%, 50-50, constructive criticism and appreciation. That's what I hope this podcast could be. Our topic for this first episode, DART 2045, is a great topic to start on because this is a good way to forecast a broad range of things that they are planning on working on. This is something that I've only had like a cursory review of, but you've actually read through the entire thing. So in short order, what is the DART 2045 Transit System Plan?
There's 5 themes on the DART 2045 Transit System Plan, and those 5 themes are the areas they want to focus on improving. And those themes are rider experience, mobility and innovation, service and expansion, land use and economic development, and collaboration.
Is that what you have on your screen now? I can pull it up.
Yeah. Well,
all right, let's go look at it.
This is the transit system plan, basically.
Matt Goodman wrote an article, and the opening was, Dallas is the city of a lot of plans sitting in a filing cabinet that don't ever happen. If you were to give a summary of what kind of plan this is, how permanent or how official is anything that we're looking at?
Yeah, this, I don't work at DART, right? But I do watch the meetings, and it's not meant to be super, super specific. They're not going to be like, our plan is to create a line that serves Addison Transit Center, Uptown, whatever it might be. But they do want to highlight what they want to work on. There are a few specific examples in how they want to use technology. Bus rapid transit's talked about under rider experience. And there are a few specifics here, but it's pretty general for the most part, giving them a lot of flexibility. I think that was the intent.
Okay, let's talk about rider experience. So walk us through what rider experience is all about.
Yeah, so better bus amenities at the bus stops, more safety and security, better communication to riders, and better pedestrian access to transit. Those are like the main central things.
Gotcha. I want to dive into what each of those mean. Talk about improving pedestrian access. There's some of us who either have no idea what improving pedestrian access can entail, or there's some of us who have a lot of ideas about what it means to improve walkability and pedestrian access, but we'd like to know what specifically DART will do about it.
So
Because a lot of things around
I've
walkability are
heard-
not their jurisdiction.
I've actually heard a little bit about this. What they're specifically talking about is pedestrian access to their frequent routes, mainly, and within like 1/4 of a mile or half a mile.
Mhm.
So you'll have this issue where maybe you're in theory 1/4 of a mile away from a transit station, but in practice you have to walk like 1 mile if you want to use the sidewalk and don't want to cut across the mud or something, right? So filling in those gaps, that's one way you can do it. I would hope it also includes adding crosswalks, adding lights, street lights. That's the kind of thing I want. Maybe some traffic calming. They haven't said anything about that. That's my idea.
Right. Let me pull up my screen real quick. So this is what I'm looking at here. This is from the transit system plan. And I'm looking here at goal 1. So enhance pedestrian access to bus stops and rail. So everything that you talked about.
Yeah.
Make it easier for people to access transit and improve ridership.
So more specifically, I have heard it said somewhere that as a part of Dart Zoom, they wanted to figure out what those key bus corridors would be so they can then bring that to the cities and say, hey, around here, we want you to focus on better walkability, closing sidewalk gaps.
Okay. So when Dart decided to include this in their transit system plan, this is not something that they are going to do. This is something that they are urging the cities to do because they don't really control the sidewalks beyond the stations and the stops.
Yes, but both you and the listener, have possibly heard of Dart giving back excess sales tax revenue to the cities.
Yes.
$200 million.
And you might want to give a very, very quick summary of that.
Essentially, over the pandemic, Dart received federal funds to continue operations. Sales tax took a big hit, but sales tax recovered, and Dart had funded their operations that year using federal money, and they had excess sales tax revenue. They had $500 million in excess sales tax revenue. They decided to give, I think, 40% of that back to the cities. And they want the cities to use it for public transportation purposes.
Wait, the total excess was
The total excess was $500 million. 512.
Oh, 512.
Yeah.
And so the amount that they gave back to the city,
It's like low 200 millions. I don't know the exact amount.
And so that 200 million, that's not just going to the city of Dallas. That's $200 million. It's
for all 13.
Split between 13 member cities.
Not evenly, of course, but
yeah. So, man, we could talk about that. But we got to leave that there just so we can stay on the topic of transit system plan.
Yeah.
But you brought that up to say, is the expectation that now that we've given this money back to the cities, they are expected to help fulfill these goals that are listed in the system plan?
That's the hope. That's my hope. Based on
think of this episode setting the questions we'll ask future
I don't
guests.
know the answer on how the city is going to spend this money, but my guess is they want to enhance the ridership experience. So who knows? That's what I think, because we know it's going to be related to public transportation in some way. It has to be in that ballpark. I don't know if it'll be used to install a new sidewalk at the edge of town. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
It sounds like this goal 1 is to be one of those things that between now and 2045, we hope gets better, but it's not really something that Dart itself will directly do. It's going to count on the cities, and between now and 2045, it's really just a matter of finding ways to get the cities on the same page about doing this first goal, enhance pedestrian access.
Yeah.
Right? We're not really expecting Dart to do anything themselves.
It really is the city's responsibility.
Okay, let's go to the second one.
Real quick, can you show my screen? Just for this point. What I have open here is the sidewalk gap analysis. So this is a half a mile circle around the station, but where it's red and orange, it takes more than half a mile of walking to actually get to it due to sidewalk gaps. This is part of what they're talking about.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the colors here, it's a good thing. And by the way, thank you for everyone who's listening for bearing with the roughness of this first episode.
Yeah.
We decided we were just going to go for it and just improve as we go.
That's all I wanted to show.
Yeah, staying on this, is the goal to get all of these yellow?
I don't know, just more. I'm not Dart,
okay,
but I would say just more.
Okay, gotcha.
And this is just one station, of course. But
I'm guessing
Yeah.
we don't want any more red, because the red is existing sidewalk facilities that are disconnected due to a gap in the networks.
This is going to increase ridership. If you have more people who can walk to your station
Right.
safer and quicker, your ridership is going to go up.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back. So goal 2, expand bus stop amenities for local buses, core frequent bus routes, and future bus rapid transit, or BRT, focusing on those benefiting Reliant and Task riders. Okay.
So BRT.
Softball question, just for people who don't know. What is BRT for people who don't
rapid transit. It is when you put a bus lane down, ideally, and you have longer articulated buses typically, and they run in their own dedicated right of way, just like a train does, and they have limited stops, maybe every half mile or every mile, and each stop is a nicer facility, like a train station, but it's a bus. It's a faster bus route that tries to avoid or completely avoids traffic.
Gotcha. So the key thing is bus rapid transit compared to non-rapid bus is it has its own dedicated lane, so it's not sharing the
traffic. It goes
traffic.
faster because it's stopping less.
It's faster. It has more amenities at the stops because it's basically operating like rail in almost every sense, except it's a bus, not a train, and there's some shared facilities because it's on streets as opposed to railway.
I think the key thing is what kind of routes can we expect to see become BRT routes? And I have an idea of this.
And to be clear for anyone who's watching this, I mean, if you ride DART, you might know this. We currently do not have any bus rapid transit in the system.
But they have criteria for what must become bus rapid transit route.
Right.
That criteria is 3,000 passengers per day or more on that bus route.
Okay. This is starting to get closer to something we can expect DART to do something about.
No, we're going to see BRT. It's basically confirmed.
So this is absolutely good. So
I don't want to say absolutely. It's likely.
I mean, all the conversations we've had, even beyond transit system plan, we've both talked to, name dropping, but we've both talked to Patrick Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I think right now the conversation is kind of revolving around bus rapid transit.
They also have a $500 million bus corridor improvement program plan that I don't think they funded fully, but it's been brought up.
One thing that listeners can look forward to in the next 22 years is at some point we are going to get lanes only for buses.
Yeah, but
and those buses are going to move fast.
Do you know what routes might get these lanes?
I don't, and it sounds like the system plan doesn't indicate that either.
Yes, but I've done some digging.
Oh, okay, so in a different plan, like some other documentation?
Well, I just heard it mentioned before in the board meeting that routes with over 3,000 riders per day will be looked at for BRT. And I can tell you which routes are getting that kind of ridership.
Okay, that you want to pull it up? Let's pull it up.
Okay, I can't pull it up, but I'll tell you the routes.
Yeah,
you look. Okay, I know the route. Okay, Route 57, which goes down Westmoreland.
I feel like this deserves
a map. Okay. Yeah. Look. I don't have a map of this.
I've got it. Okay, so we've got the map up. Whoa, super zoomed in, but I think this is not even the latest map. Okay. So, But here's a map. All right.
So you go to where Westmoreland Station is. All right, you see Route 57? Yeah, bus rapid transit up that route all the way to the medical center. I'm not saying this will happen, but it's going to be looked at. It meets their criteria.
So 57 actually goes further south in Westmoreland. It actually goes to the Charlton Medical Center. So this is the furthest point south, if you guys can see my cursor. All the way up to Westmoreland, so it gets a rail connection. And then it keeps going.
Literally goes straight and then turns to the medical center.
All right.
It's a very straightforward route.
2 hospitals covering the southwest quarter of Dallas.
Yeah.
This gets to 3,000 riders per day.
It's their best performing route that's not the UTD shuttle, I believe.
Which is a whole other topic, the UTD shuttle. Okay, so what else?
Route 22, which goes on Forest Lane. It's in Garland and Dallas. It goes from the downtown Garland to the Addison Transit Center. Yeah.
Starting in the east, downtown Garland Station, which we've talked about Garland a lot. Forest Suburb actually has a pretty nicely filled out. You can see here on the screen.
It's DART's best bus ridership city besides Dallas.
They've got a pretty solid grid throughout the city of Garland. I mean, you look at this grid, see how every major artery has a bus line. Look at East Dallas, where I live, right? You don't have a grid like that,
Mhm.
right? So it's really nice that Garland has this really complete grid. But from downtown Garland, and there's a rail station there, it goes to another rail station, so Forest Jupiter, another rail station, Forest Lane, keeps going.
Yeah, it goes off that job center in LBJ where like there's a lot of offices and there's the Medical City Dallas.
Oh yeah, there's multiple hospitals.
Then it hits the Galleria,
which is the largest mall in Dallas County.
It is? Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I mean, it's Galleria and North Park, and then Galleria is definitely larger. So that's a major destination. And then it goes to the Addison Transit Center, which
is a major destination.
You've got Addison Circle, you've got Kaboom Town doing July 4th.
You have all those offices.
You have offices, you have residential, you have restaurants.
And the future Silver Line station. Addison Transit Center is DART's busiest transit center.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wait, even busier than Dallas?
Well, okay, it's
outside of downtown.
DART doesn't count. If your transit center has a train station, DART doesn't count it as a transit center, like for bus. I don't think it gets more riders than the West End Transfer Center, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, good.
I don't think that counts as a transit center, technically. Okay. I could be wrong. But it is DART's busiest transit center. How they define transit center, I'm not entirely sure. I'll put it that way.
Okay. That is interesting. So it's not coming from you. DART themselves is saying, paraphrase quote, Addison Transit Center is the busiest transit center.
Yes. I just don't know. It includes like the West Transfer Center because I would guess that's the busiest.
Okay. Yeah. So let's keep moving.
There's another bus rapid transit route. Jefferson Gashton Route 9.
Oh, that's my part. I live here in the old East Dallas neighborhood. 9 goes through my part of town.
It goes through your East Dallas, downtown, then Oak Cliff.
Right. So it starts up here. This is Lakewood Village. Lakewood Village is right here. But it keeps going down. A lot of mixed density because there's a mix of apartments as well as single family homes. But I would say it's a high density residential corridor because there's a lot of apartments. As well as a lot of, despite the East Dallas area being generally upper middle class, a lot of low income affordable housing on this corridor. And it goes through downtown, so passes through East and West transfer centers. And then it cuts through to Oak Cliff on Jefferson and to Bishop Arts, which if you live in Dallas, you know Bishop Arts is a very poppin' destination. Lots of things going on at Bishop Arts. And it keeps going further west through Oak Cliff on Jefferson and then terminating at the Cockrell Hill transfer location.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they say transfer location?
They didn't want to call it a transit center.
Why?
It's not. It doesn't have the same like level of facility as a transit center, right? I've never been here, but I don't think it does.
I think I have, but not with the eyes I have now.
Let's go on a trip to the Cockrell Hill transfer location, Hexel. There might be a lot to learn there.
For our audience's benefit, I feel like we should have opened with this part of our intro. I don't have a car by choice. I've been living car-free since January this year. So I ride transit a lot because that's the only way I can get around beyond my immediate neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't personally commute to work because I do work remote. You do use it to commute to work. Mm-hmm. So you take the DART every morning.
Every morning, yeah.
And you live, I mean, we're not going to dox ourselves, but thousands of people live at City Line.
Yes, I live in City Line.
And so
UTD area.
And so you have the opportunity to use it every day for commuting purposes.
Yeah.
I brought it up because we both take every opportunity we can to explore the network as much as we can. And so I've definitely rode in every line. I've not stopped at every station, but we take every opportunity we can to kind of explore. And I think Cockrell Hill is one of those that will at some point try to find an excuse to go there. And if anyone
I want to see the Cockrell Hill transfer location, damn it.
Why is it a transfer location? Like, I'm just curious, what's the difference between a transfer location and a transit center?
Better facilities, and the transit centers don't have rail lines going to them, except for the J.B. Jackson Transit Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe rail has something to do with it.
Let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. So we were identifying routes under consideration for bus rapid transit with more than 3,000 daily riders. We just identified the 9. That's the third route we identified.
Yeah.
What's another one?
So, okay. I want to throw out a disclaimer here. These routes in February were close to 3,000 riders. But February is the lowest ridership month. I'm confident they're at above 3,000 now, or fairly confident. Ridership's been recovering. The other one would be the 883. I don't think that's becoming BRT. 883.
Wait, why wouldn't it be? And so again, for listeners' benefit, this is the UTD shuttle route as they classify it.
Yeah, because 883 West is a weird route. It just like,
what's weird about it?
It's a shuttle. It's just a shuttle. It's very, very short. They don't need limited stops. I don't think it needs to be sped up.
For our listeners' benefit, the only difference between a shuttle route and any other bus route is that the route itself is short. Otherwise, it's still a dark bus.
No, schedules change. They don't have the normal 5 a.m. to 12 schedule.
I know this is not necessarily part of 2045 plan, but I think people may find this interesting. Let's dissect the differences between a shuttle route and a non-shuttle route. A shuttle route follows a fixed schedule, but the fixed schedule has a lot of variations, right? Does it only vary by season and day of the week?
Yeah, no, some shuttle routes don't have weekend service. Some are only in the morning and the evening.
Okay, so in a nutshell, a crazy amount of variation. You basically have to check the schedule every time you decide to ride, unless you use it daily.
Yeah, if you use it daily,
Don't mind the cat. Or mind the cat, is up to you. So that's number one, high variation in schedules. And then two, just the fact that it's a very short route.
Yeah.
Like you're going to stay within the same city. Sorry, cat tails in the camera.
Cat's adorable though.
She's all right. She's cute. She's my cat. Her name's Denver. Anyways, that was the fourth route we've identified. Is there any other routes that they're looking at for bus rapid transit?
To my knowledge, no. Okay. There could be another one that's really putting in those ridership numbers now.
We could probably put in a whole episode about bus rapid transit.
Yeah.
Let's go back to our goals. All right, let's move on from goal 3 to, because I know we could hang on there forever, but we're trying to get a good overview of everything.
Yeah, safety and security, I don't have much to add other than make it better.
So goal 3, strengthen riders' sense of safety and security at bus transit centers and rail stations in collaboration with DART police and service area cities. Is there anything that they're going to do other than just more officers? I mean, I don't say that in a negative, derogatory sense.
No, it's been talked about to like improve the stations to get more eyes on the street, like maybe better landscaping and visibility. But besides that, no, not to my knowledge. There could be something, but maybe more people watching the cameras.
I don't want to minimize the topic, but if we were just trying to focus on what DART themselves can and will do, not much.
Yeah, they're going to add more officers.
Yeah, that's about the limit, and then make more lighting and landscaping choices at the stations, but that's pretty much it.
I just don't have much to add. I mean, I think it's a good effort.
And again, a lot of these, they just need the city's help on. I feel like that's the impression we're getting on a lot of this. Okay, goal 4, continue improving perceptions of safety and security on buses and rail vehicles in collaboration with DART police and service area cities. Now, we could talk about this a lot, but I feel like this is a very subjective topic.
Yeah, I don't have much more insight other than what they say here, which is not a lot.
The only thing I'll add as maybe a teaser for a future topic is there's a lot to be said about the difference between your actual safety on transit versus your perception of safety on transit.
I think safety on DART could be its own episode. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it will be.
Okay.
For sure. There's a lot to be said about the discrepancy between actual safety and perceived safety. All right. Goal 5, continue providing timely communications to customers and the general public about DART services, convenience, safety, and reliability. Okay. I would say this is maybe the first goal we've seen where it is entirely in DART's control to improve on this, because we have talked about, for all the things they're doing great and all the things that they're not doing great, I think communication definitely falls in the category of not great.
Yeah, but I do know a specific item they're doing to improve this. So.
Oh, okay, go for it. What are they doing?
And you know about it too, Hexel. We saw this on Twitter. They've talked about it in the meeting too. They want to improve the trains. They want to get them connected to 4G network instead of a 2G network so you can track them better. And the timing will be accurate. So you know how like sometimes the station will say train will be there in 5 minutes and 5 minutes pass and it's not there, or maybe it's there in 1 minute. That's going to be more accurate.
Okay, and I feel like we need to pause and show an example. I switched to camera view so I can pull up the app. I think the significance of upgrading from 3G to 4G on trains and buses.
No, 2G.
Huh?
Yeah, 2G.
It's 2G on trains?
Yes, and I don't know buses. I don't think buses are 4G though, because the tracking on the buses is not super
Okay,
accurate.
so this is the part where if you're listening, you'll want to look at your screen. So I have the app on my phone right now. You see those circles with the arrows? Those red, blue, orange, green, those are the trains. You can see where the trains are in real time. You can also see where the buses are in real time. So on the one hand, this is really cool. Like when I first got the app and started using it this year, it's been a game changer to be able to see where your bus is and get a good sense of when it's going to arrive, if it's arriving at all. It'll tell me if it's late. It will tell me if it's early. It will tell me if it's canceled. When it's working, it's extreme improvement on the quality of service because I just have that much more control and predictability. That being said, it is not always reliably available. A lot of times buses will not have their GPS information, and a lot of times trains will also not have it.
I think the issue with trains is just that it's just not as accurate because it's a 2G connection. And I think some bus routes just don't have it at all.
Because there's this anxiety when the bus that you're waiting for, the train that you're waiting for, you don't have that real-time information for that particular bus or train. And then you're stuck in limbo land where you're just guessing, is it going to come? Is it not going to come? And then the time rolls by.
More so with the bus and the trains, I feel.
So by making this upgrade, we get that assurance that we know what's going on.
Yeah, I just hope they apply this upgrade to the buses too, because I'll see a bus just like it's definitely behind where it actually is.
Is there anything else in the category of goal 5, improving communication?
Everything else just comes down to them improving Go Pass and what you can see on it.
Is there anything mentioned about updating the website? Because it's a very archaic and difficult
not on
to
the
navigate.
plan, but I have filled out a survey about it. I think they're trying to improve it. On the survey, I filled it out. They asked what you want to see, what's better.
I think we've gone through all 5 goals of rider experience.
Yeah, no, let's move on.
Before we move on from that, is there anything you wish you saw in the 2045 plan regarding rider experience? And honestly, there's a lot I would like to see. There'll have to be future episodes, each one. But right out the gate, I would have liked to see on communication a better website. If they're working on it, that's good to hear. I would hope that was in the plan, though. But what are some other things that you might have wished you saw?
That's a good question. I don't know. The main things people talk about, safety or getting that information out. Actually, I'm going to compliment them. I'm really glad they acknowledged the access to the stations because part of the experience of using Dart is you getting to Dart. So I think the fact that they're thinking about that is very good.
So being honest about the challenge and the problem.
Yeah.
I do like that. Broadly, I wish that this document laid out more items within Dart's control. Because I get it, a lot of things are outside their control. Like, we get it. But if they exercise a little bit more creativity, I think there's a lot more they can do entirely within their own property, within their own facilities and vehicles to enhance all of these goals. And I think most of these goals, the way that it's presented, is largely just hoping that the cities will cooperate on it. If they really put their creative thinking hat on, they could do more within their own jurisdiction. So that's just my comment. Okay, now rider experience was not the only thing. There was also the next section of this transit system plan, which is mobility and innovation. Now, I get a little nervous whenever the word innovation comes up because it does sound like a buzzword. And so either A, there's some really interesting stuff in here, or B, it's not.
So, yeah, there's innovation's not bad. Innovation is good.
Let's dive into what it is. All right, do we want to just jump straight into the first goal, or do you want to give a general comment?
The main thing about the mobility and innovation that I've noticed is electric buses. I think that's goal 5. But I don't think they're actually too excited or care a lot about electric buses, and I think that's actually a good thing. Electric buses are very expensive, and they don't last very long. The technology is just not there yet, and it's just not cheap. I think the electric bus goal, from what I've heard them discuss, is if the federal government wants to pay for it, we'll do it. Otherwise, not.
Yeah, I actually had an opportunity to get a little bit of insight on this because like NCT Cog had their Drive Electric Week. I think last month now. I was there because I brought my electric bike, and they also brought one of their electric buses to show off. And part of the challenge with electric buses, I mean, yeah, it's a zero emission. It's nice that it's zero emission, but part of the challenge is it doesn't last all day like a diesel bus can.
You need twice as many buses.
I think you were the one who actually enlightened me on this. Diesel buses currently, they
compressed
don't.
natural gas.
Oh, is that so? It's not diesel?
No, it's compressed natural gas, which is better than diesel.
All right, which is better. Those last all day. They fill it up once a day in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to fill it up at some time. But the key thing is it doesn't need to stop to refill.
And even if it did, it's a lot faster than charging a battery.
Oh, yeah. And so you have these buses that can essentially just keep going throughout the entire service hours, but the electric bus has to stop. And then because it takes so long to charge, once it's out, it's going to be out effectively the rest of the day because you need another bus to fill in. And I was talking to the engineer they had on site to answer questions, and a lot of the solutions that solve this challenge of charging and powering these buses once again goes back outside of DART's control, where you have these passive charging systems where, like, let's say the bus is passing down a road or down an artery and it's getting charged underneath.
This is called a trolley bus.
I actually,
and they're better than battery buses.
I literally brought this up to him.
Yeah.
And me bringing it up was the first time they had even because I asked him, "Were you guys looking into trolley buses?" And I had to explain to him what a trolley bus is.
They have cheaper infrastructure costs because you have to have a wire along the route, but they're better.
For our listeners' benefit, a trolley bus is basically a bus, but it has the catenary wire.
And it charges up from the overhead wire.
Now, there's still a battery, but the beauty
Not always.
Well, not always, but the version that I had described to the engineer at the time was a battery trolley bus, where essentially when the bus is on a major artery and it has the overhead power lines, it's able to charge and power through those overhead lines. And then in segments of the route that don't have those overhead lines, it can run out of battery, which is basically also how the Dallas streetcar to Oak Cliff operates, because it also has a segment where there's no overhead lines.
Yeah, and you can use a lot smaller of a battery. So.
Right. So you get all the benefits of an electric bus while also less of the disadvantages. It's still going to be expensive. You still have the disadvantage of capital upfront cost, but you gain the ability to just run those buses all day. It was weird to me that I was the first one to bring it up.
Yeah, I wish they knew about that. Come on, man.
How well, you know, and that's why we have this podcast, and that's why we go out there and have these conversations, because you never know. You just take it for granted that these agencies will look at these things, and sometimes it just takes a normal person to just say, "Hey, look into this thing."
That's true.
So, what do you want to talk about next?
So, goal 2, I'll talk about that real quick. There's all these pilot programs. The one I know about is their automated bus pilot program, and DART signed up to have their Love Field Shuttle Airport bus route, I think it's Route 55, be an automated bus route. If DART can automate their buses, that's definitely a lot cheaper for them to run service. They could double their frequency, I think, because like half the cost is your driver's salary. I don't want to put people out of work. No, and I don't think they can automate every bus route anyways. Actually, so I think this would just free up resources to be used elsewhere.
Well, I'm assuming that it's going to be just like in Arlington, where their automated vehicles still have an operator. And my assumption here is that if DART is exploring automated vehicles, there's no situation where there's an automated vehicle without an operator. But what this essentially does is makes the operator's job way easier.
Yeah.
And it frees them up to be a more human interfacing role as opposed to someone who's laser locked onto the road. And so, for example, the vehicle is driving itself. He's there as an emergency intervention. But while there's no emergency going on, he can communicate to the riders, answer their questions, guide them where they need to get off, and add to the service quality of the bus.
That's true.
As opposed to there's no operator. I'm assuming that's because that's how Arlington is. There's no plan to change that. I think this would be the smarter way to do it.
Yeah, but they're just going to try it on the Lovelink route, the Route 55. It's a very short route.
When I say makes their job a lot easier, I want to be sure we don't lose the value of that. They have a really hard job to be a bus operator.
Yes, it's very difficult.
If you think it's easy because they just drive around it, no, it's a very tough.
I mean, you have to be paying attention to who to pick up. When someone presses the button, you have to remember to drop off. You have to not get distracted by their passengers. You're driving a huge vehicle.
Yeah, their job is to provide an extremely consistent experience in the face of countless variables being thrown their way. Mm-hmm. That's an incredibly difficult job. And that's where I see automated vehicles. If you can make that job easier, you'll have less burnout, less turnover. That's my hope.
If they could have some fully automated routes, that would allow them to use the bus operators for other routes and increase frequency on other routes, though, too.
Right. So that's goal 2. Now, we really want to get to goal 3 here. All right, this is where you want to talk about mobility hubs. Tell me about the hub.
You know, a transit center, Hexel?
We were just,
Yeah. So you imagine that, but with bike share or with like a scooter share. And
so multiple modes.
Yeah, it's a multimodal hub where you can make connections.
So Fort Worth, for example, and we've got to have a Trinity Metro episode, but in Fort Worth, they already have bike share at their train stations. Is this basically, when they say mobility hub, they're basically saying take your existing transit centers and add some more modes to it, so add a bike dock?
Yeah, scooter potentially too.
So when they say that they're going to do this, does that mean that DART is saying that they will offer a bike share program?
Oh, no, it doesn't mean they will offer it. Though I would love it. I would love if your DART pass could be used to get on a scooter. But I think what it means is they will let bike share companies set up at their station. So you'd have the dock.
So is this another one where, why were you so excited about this? I mean, no offense. So, I mean, it's a good thing, but it sounds like yet another thing.
There's so many situations where like the destination you want to go to on DART are like a 30-minute walk away.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's a good thing, but it sounds like another thing that is not really within DART's control.
No.
I mean, they're allowing bike share, but then that's also dependent on bike share being allowed in the city, which becomes, so we, for example,
for those of Plano has it.
Okay, true.
We're 1/13 of the way there.
1 out of 13.
I know. I think it's more than Plano, but
Plano is the only. I've never seen it in Carrollton, for starters. I don't remember seeing it in Garland.
Is it in Dallas? Is Dallas a bike share? Not a biker. No.
I mean, this is the whole. That's what the big drama is.
They ban scooters. They ban bikes too.
Dude. Oh, okay. So reminder: I live here in Dallas. Connor lives in Richardson. I'm remembering that we don't live in the same city, so I'm maybe a little bit more in tune with Dallas news than you are.
Yes.
Several times this year, there have been promises that scooters were coming back to Dallas, and they were just going to work out the kinks.
But this is scooters. What about bikes?
Well, okay, same thing.
Okay.
I mean, not the same thing, but I'm lumping them together because the status of these are the same.
And they have to wait a year, right? Because they don't have the staff to work it out.
Every time you ask someone who is in the know of what's going on, they say it's going to come next month or in 2 months or 3 months. But it's the same answer every time. Now, most recently, I did get a chance to run into Brian Toney. He knows about this. And he says that now they've started accepting applications from scooter companies. So I think that is perhaps the most movement or progress on this that I've seen all year. Best case scenario, if they don't drag their feet anymore, we could see scooters coming back in January. That's best case scenario.
Okay.
So, anyways, if they have these docking stations, or if they lease out space for scooters or bikes to be placed at transit centers or stations or mobility hubs as they call them, I think that's awesome. And I don't want to poo-poo on it, because 100% go for it. It just doesn't feel as ambitious on Dart's part. It's they're not really doing much in this way.
Well, I think there's another thing actually that I remember: car sharing. They could have car sharing at these mobility hubs.
Okay, so they have this at Mockingbird.
They do. And I think this is really important for people who can use Dart for like 90% of those trips, but those 10%, they still need a car. Well, if you can get to a mobility hub and you can just drive a car, problem solved.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The third out of 5 categories that the transit plan covers: service and expansion.
There's like 3 things: Silverline, Dart Zoom, D2.
Okay, so Silverline, I think more of our audience is going to know what this is. But again, just in case you don't, there is a new rail service line under construction right now, projected to open in
2024.
And when we look at our system map and we scroll out, it's going to connect basically this northern corridor from downtown Plano, City Line, UTD, which is right here, and then Addison Circle, and then Carrollton, and then a brand new development at North Lake.
Cypress Waters.
Yeah, it's called Cypress Waters, but North Lake is the lake that it's developed on, right?
North Lake, yep.
And then DFW Airport. So we've got our spider web. It's going to be the first rail service that connects the
east-west.
East-west.
East-west line, yeah.
Correct. So that's Silver Line. We can have a separate episode for that. But moving on, the other thing was D2.
Mm-hmm.
So D2 is a alternate alignment in downtown. So you can see here that currently all 4 lines use this rail alignment on Pacific Way. That is a huge bottleneck, a huge liability. And so D2 creates a separate alignment that 2 out of the 4 rail lines will use.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would increase frequency and reliability of the entire system.
Yes.
So that's D2. Definitely going to be a whole other episode for that. The third one is, I think, the one that we can talk about now.
Zoom.
Dart Zoom.
Happened.
So Dart Zoom is January 24th. I remember the day well. They completely revamped their bus network.
Why don't you show my screen for this, actually?
Yeah. Right. You have something to show.
Oh, yeah. I do. So this is the existing network. What's in green are buses that came every 40 to 60 minutes.
Whoa, what is this website?
I'll send it to you.
I've never seen this before.
It's amazing. You can get a direct
comparison. Is this official?
Yes.
How did you find this?
I can tell you later.
Okay, so
they were promoting this.
I was not expecting this new toy of a tool.
So what you see here is a lot of like green, a lot of hourly bus service. A lot of these bus routes were very underutilized.
Yeah.
So what Dart's decided to do is cut a lot of them, replace it with on-demand GoLink, and increase frequency across the whole network.
Okay, so when it says in this website, existing network, it's not talking about the...
Yeah, this is pre-Dart Zoom.
This is before January 24th.
Yes.
The network. And then when it says new network, that is the actual existing network today as of October 2022. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, well, not even October 20th, because they made a few adjustments since then, right?
Slight, it doesn't matter though.
Not significant. No. Okay, so what we are looking at is, this is Dart Zoom. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, Dart Zoom 2.0, which is the next wave of network changes and improvements, mm-hmm. is that in the 2045 plan? Or has... Well,
yeah, basically, all Dart Zoom 2.0 is it's like a 5-year plan to improve Dart Zoom. There, in the 2045 plan, it does mention, I don't even remember if it mentions that phrasing.
Yeah.
But I believe it does say, we're going to continue to improve the bus network.
Continuous improvements. Okay. But building on that, do we know when we can expect Dart Zoom 2.0 to be rolled out? How long
Yeah,
a process is
I think it was going to be a 5-year thing, a little bit after.
2026.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's been a few things talked about in Dart Zoom 2.0. That would be 15-minute rail service in the midday instead of 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
improving frequencies on some bus routes, having more 15-minute all day service.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is all. So we bring this up because this is under the heading of service and expansion.
So I want to talk a little bit about why there's a phase 2 of Dart Zoom.
Go for it.
Dart Zoom 1.0 was basically trying to improve frequency on the network without adding more resources to it. So they wanted to get the best bus network they could with their resource expenditure they had. So now that they have the best, whether it is the best or not is up for interpretation. But now that they have the best network they could possibly have, they want to improve this network. So with Dart Zoom 2.0, they're going to actually increase the amount of resources the bus network has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dart Zoom 1.0
redistributed.
Yeah, redistribute, budget neutral, resource neutral.
Yes.
2.0, more resources, more budget.
Mm-hmm.
We expect that to be maybe 2026. Okay, let's move on then. So we just did rider experience, mobility, innovation, service expansion. Let's talk about land use and economic development. And we'll try to fly through. I suspect this is not going to be very long, because I suspect it's going to be yet another, mostly not in Dart's control.
You're absolutely correct.
Right. It's almost like this is not really a plan by Dart.
Wish list?
It's more, I was just going to say it's more of a wish list.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have to hope that the cities adhere to this too.
You want to give an overview, or do you want to jump into the goals?
So if you notice, a lot of the Dart stations you go to and you get off, it's like, wow, I'm surrounded by a parking lot. We've got this 6-lane road over here and not a lot of destinations around. And it's not a very useful train station, and it's hostile to pedestrians. And if you're getting off a train, you're a pedestrian, right? So the idea is to use the power of transit-oriented development to make
the power of Todd.
Yeah, they call it TOD, Todd, to make these places better, and to also maybe meet some of the city's goals to accommodate more housing or create walkable communities around these train stations. And that'll boost ridership for Dart and make the system more useful for Dart users today, because if I have another station I can go shopping at, that might be helpful.
Right. For the benefit of our listeners, I suspect most people, maybe really honestly, all people who listen to this first rough episode of this podcast already know what TOD is, or transit-oriented development. But just in case you don't, as well as just in case someone has a slightly different definition of TOD, transit-oriented development is not just development around transit, but oriented in the sense that when done perfectly, you step off of the train and step into the front door of a retail or apartment or whatever it is that you've built, or oriented around the train. In the same sense that currently the vast majority of all establishments, homes, you name it, are oriented around the street, where you can drive on it, you can step out of your car, step into the house. This is, you step out of the train, you step into the store.
Yeah.
I make that distinction because there's also transit adjacent development, where technically, if you look at the map, the station is in close proximity of some other establishment or businesses or apartment or mixed use or whatever. But you have to walk out of your way to get from the station to the development. Mm-hmm. So you have transit oriented and transit adjacent. Here we're talking about the primary means of traveling to these destinations is trains or transit.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe not necessarily trains, but buses or some other form of mass transit.
Yeah, they've thought about buses too. If you want to look at my screen now.
Oh, yeah, sure. Let me switch over.
So this is a map of parking utilization. So any of these like low 0 to 25% or medium lows, we're probably going to see Dart actually sell their land to a developer, and they will build like new apartments and retail.
Well, this is not even a probably. This is like we actually know which stations are going to have because they.
Yeah, and I'm gonna.
Do you have that article or do you have a resource for that? Oh, you've already got it.
These are existing and planned TODs.
Okay. So, and if this is a 2045 plan, which is updated what year?
2022.
Oh, this is 2022?
Yeah.
Oh.
They finalized this in 2022.
So, wait, okay, when this year, though?
It was early this year. They finalized it. I remember. I don't have the exact date, but it was a few months ago.
So, we'd have to follow up on this. Maybe we'll do a transit-oriented development episode. I have to follow up on whether or not this is inclusive of the 10 or so stations that they've opened up RFPs, requests for proposals, to have developments built. Because for a long time, I think for over a year, they announced that they were going to do that, but they didn't. And then it was only like in the last month or so that they actually started taking applications. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so if you could go back to that map.
I know Garland has thought about the South Garland Transit Center, which is served by a lot of buses, like a lot of bus routes, a lot of frequent ones too. This South Garland Transit Center,
yeah,
they're considering selling up this parking lot, turning it into development, transit-oriented development around bus. So It's not just rail.
Well, because it does look like there are more than 10 of these quarter pie, so what does a quarter of a pie represent on this map?
25%.
0 to 25%. Yeah, so it's more than 10, 25% stations, which are ripe for development.
Yeah.
Right. So
Parker Road Station's probably not going to get any anytime soon.
Well, is even post-pandemic, is it hitting 75%?
We don't know. We're going to have to check.
But your gut, I think our gut is no, right?
A little bit of it. They might section off some. The parking demand at the station's still high. I've gotten in on a red line train before over by City Line, and like the train was already full. That had to have come from Parker Road Station.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's in pandemic conditions, and this is not even state fare, mind you. It's still highly utilized. I don't know if it's near 100% anymore.
Let's move on.
All right, you can stop sharing my
that's
screen.
Brian Tony, by the way. This guy right here. Bald guy.
Oh.
Now you reckon, because you've seen him. He's always, showing up.
Apparently, Dart's going to collaborate with him.
No, maybe I'll throw it in just as a shout out to Brian. Shout out, Brian.
Dart's going to collaborate with your boy.
Yeah, I don't really know him that well, to be honest, but I just keep seeing him at stuff. I see his handsome bald head. He's always at things, so it's just I just get tickled every time I see him. He's involved in a lot. Okay, sorry. Let's switch over to moi, I guess. Okay, so you got everything you wanted to talk about on land use. I mean, I'm sure there's more details, but
that's everything I want to talk about.
The last one is collaboration.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say about this one. It's pretty vague, pretty general. They want to gauge the public more, work with their cities better.
Okay, so this is one of those things where it's possible for them to be more specific.
Oh, no, there is. I would like more specific action items on this one.
But if you think about all the things that DART has control over, this is something they have massive amount of control over.
I mean, I think they did a good job. Honestly, I think they did a good job with this. They just need to follow through with this, and it's a bit harder to follow through because it's like, hey, I promise I will talk with the cities more, for instance. And it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, because what I feel jaded about is stuff like, look at this bullet point right here. Update agency policies to advance mutually beneficial programs and plans. That sounds like the kind of thing you'd read from like a Silicon Valley, tech startup that's trying to cram as many buzzwords as you can to get some funding.
Yeah.
That's what that reads like to me. And I don't want to get hung up on one thing, but okay, goal 1, continue to be a leader in advancing transit supportive funding This means nothing. Like, what is, are they a leader now? I mean,
I would say DART is a leader in transit in our region. For sure.
For sure. But as a car dependent state in a car-dependent region,
Yeah.
that's a low bar to be the leader of.
And they're talking about things like, you know, hey, let's keep working hard to get federal funding. And it's like, yeah, you're always doing that, you know?
Right.
They did say one thing that's good. They want to work with cities to change the zoning policies. I hope they can do that because there needs to be more transit supportive cities. City council members in the 13-member cities, they're aware. They know what TOD is, and they seem to want more of it. When I was watching Richardson, they actually voted to decrease the amount of parking requirements to what the developer requested for a property they're building near Spring Valley Station. A lot of cities have like this vision they want out of DART and out of walkable communities. So there's some awareness there, which means I think DART actually already did succeed a little bit, because I don't know where else they would have came up with the idea to have more walkable communities if not from DART.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they are being an influencer on the cities to do their part to increase walkability and transit-oriented development.
But like I don't know if they could defeat NIMBYs walking in saying we don't want this development here. You know,
I think the main thing I would have liked to see in this is more than just we're going to work with or continue to plan with a partner. I would love to see some, like, for lack of a better word, gangster incentive program. I don't know. Where say, you know what I mean? Like something to.
But where do they get the money for that?
Well, I mean, they have money, and also the question of where to get the money for that. I mean, these transit system plans are not going to answer.
It could be capital projects as their incentive.
Right.
Yeah.
I would just like to see more carrot and stick. You know what I mean? Like just more carrot and stick thinking.
Like, oh, you want this bus shelter here? Paint a crosswalk.
Yeah. Or
I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, along those lines of quid pro quo, where more than just words. I'd like to see more action other than strongly worded letters.
Well, I want you to take a look at Goal 5 in their first key opportunity, their first bullet under key opportunities.
Engage with the public, private stakeholders, and community organizations to build support for and advance transit initiatives. Regularly inform and seek input from DART. Regularly inform and seek input from DART advisory groups, including the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Paratransit Accessibility Advisory Group, or PAAG, on initiatives to improve service and amenities. In November 2020, the CAC provided constructive feedback on the development of the 2045 Transit System Plan. So, do you want me to read that? Because I am a member.
So, what do you think of this
hollowed group?
What do you think of this goal, this opportunity?
Okay, I'm trying to temper what I say because they are updating the bylaws to be more stringent on what we're allowed to say. But the bylaws also say that whatever I say is my views only. So if anyone tries to get me on this, I'm saying this as my own opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the CAC. Mm-hmm. This is as a CAC member, not on behalf of the CAC. My opinion about the CAC is not a very productive group.
Yeah.
But it could be better. It could be, and
I think that they're
not to toot my own horn. But I do see my role in the CAC as to try to make it more productive than it currently is. And I don't want to say that to knock anyone. Like, this is not to offend or to try to like call any specific person out. But sometimes you just need an injection of zeal and maybe even anger or frustration to say, hey, we're not being particularly productive with our time. I want us to do more to improve rider experience, to pursue all these goals, other than just talk about updating the bylaws for the 50th time, right? So we get bogged down in a lot of bureaucratic waste. So I was appointed to the CAC this year, officially in like April or May. So I've only been involved for a few months. Last meeting, we started 2 new subcommittees. The second subcommittee that I am chairing is bringing back an Adopt to Stop program. So all these other transit agencies, Trinity Metro, Cat Metro, Houston Metro, even a small, tiny town.
I feel like this could be its own episode.
Oh, yeah, it has to be. So I'm not going to go into detail on it too much. But all of these other transit agencies have some kind of adoption program where, as a private citizen or as a nonprofit org or the school or whatever, you can adopt a bus stop and share in the responsibility of keeping it clean and well maintained. DART does not have such a program for some reason, and it used to have one, but when I asked what happened to it, no one at the meeting could tell me. And so I've taken it upon myself and the other people who have joined me on this subcommittee to figure out what can be done, collect some ideas, and I've got this presentation. We'll make another episode about this. My goal for this year and the next is to make the CAC truly productive and valuable. People should know about the CAC because the purpose of it is to be an interface between the public and DART. We're supposed to be that bridge. And so the fact that we're supposed to represent the public,
no one knows
and
who
the
you
public
are.
knows who we are, right out of the gate, that's a failure.
Yeah.
I'm speaking my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the CAC. I'm just speaking about the CAC, right? Okay, don't, So my vision for what a successful CAC looks like is people know about it and they're doing stuff. And the CAC is your gateway to have influence and speak your mind to DART, because this is communication. There's very little two-way communication between DART and the public, and I want to change that. I think that's a good, good spot to end.
We covered all 5. This was a bit rough, but this was our first episode.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
I've already learned so much about doing this. I think the next episode is going to be way better.
Well, I don't know what frequency. We'll figure out when we want to do this again. We will try to cover more of these topics in depth, and we will learn from each other, and hopefully you will. This podcast will, I promise you this, have some actual DART people as guests.
Oh, you're promising that.
I will.
No one's agreed to this yet, by the way.
No one's agreed to this. I will make it happen. I'm not trying to puff myself up too much, but I am saying that is my hope for this podcast. At a minimum, I know Hosanna would probably, again, I haven't talked to her, but people who are likely to say yes, Hosanna is probably good first, because we've worked on a campaign together.
I wonder what that episode topic would be with Hosanna.
Teaser. So hope you guys tune in. Thank you for being patient with this very rough episode of insert podcast title here. And we'll see you when we see you.